You think that sinister people can use joy?
I mean, look at Officer Harris.
Did she use it or did she? Fair enough. But I guess my skepticism.
Look at Hollywood.
Okay. To use joy or to manipulate it?
Well, I mean,
I think kind of the difference maybe is the voluntary element. Like, look, I figured out, I had this weird kind of obsession when I was teaching in Boston, because I was teaching about horrible things, terrible things, like the Holocaust and the Gulag and like the depths of depravity, right? And I got this voice in my head that kept saying, if you could master this, you'd do that with a light touch. And I thought, really? Like, how the hell am I going to talk about these topics that are...
I'll tell you how I did it.
Okay.
Because my book on North Korea, Dear Reader, it's written from Kim Jong-il's perspective, right?
Right.
And their propaganda is humorous in the sense of absurd. And I wrote it straight. And I'll give you one example that I use.
Right.
So they have something there called the Tower of the Juche idea, which is, this is true, the biggest stone obelisk in the world, or concrete obelisk, whatever. And according to their literature, it was Kim Jong-il's idea, and no one else had ever thought of such a thing, right? For that to be true, and this is how I lay out the scene, the architects must have sat together, and no one even as a brainstorm had this as a suggestion. And I imagine one of the architects being like, you know what? Let's make this the second tallest stone tower obelisk in the world. And then Kim Jong-il comes in and goes, guys, let's make it the big. And they're like, oh my God, no one's ever thought of this.
Right.
But that, for their propaganda to be true, that is what would have to be the backstory. Another example that they have is there was an amusement park, fun fair, that they built in North Korea. And Kim Jong-il, the dear leader, wanted to make sure, this is like a South Park episode, that it was safe for everyone. So he gets on all the rides and everyone's like, can we ride it with you? No. I have to make sure that the elderly and children aren't harmed. And he did all the rides by himself, and there was a light drizzle, so you know he's very brave. And everyone stood and clapped. And they present this story with a straight face. And you read this and you realize how humorous it is that this is what's posited as truth in this country. Now, my last chapter in the book is where the mask drops and it gets very, very dark very, very quickly. But I think there is...
So you use... That's interesting. You know, did you watch The Death of Stalin?
That's he also did Veep, which is probably like the best comedy of all time.
Oh, I haven't seen Veep. He did Veep.
You haven't seen Veep?
No.
Julia Louis-Dreyfus blocked me because she plays Selena Meyer, who's the titular character. She was going on about Trump or something. I go, you won several Emmys for demonstrating that all politicians are sociopaths. Blocked. That show is a complete masterpiece because as the seasons go on, the mask drops more and more. And the first season, she's this bumbling vice president. Every episode, there's a running gag. It's like, did the president call? No, okay. And by the end, it's full-blown brazen sociopathy. And she's such a great comedic actress and so charismatic. Like there's this one scene where her assistant's in the hospital, right? There's just these little touches and they come in, bring him water. She of course takes it. She goes, can someone get Gary some water? Like this must be a hospital. Like it never even enters her head that this water would be for the guy in the bed because she comes first. So there's so many moments like this throughout the show. And The Death of Stalin, same thing. There's this one great scene where after Stalin dies, spoiler alert, he dies, Death of Stalin, his daughter is talking to Khrushchev. And Khrushchev says to her, I promise nothing bad will happen to you. She's like, why would you say that? He goes, no. Like, calm down. She goes, wait, are people plotting to kill me? He goes, no, I'll protect you. And she's like, protect me from what? But like, this is the reality that these people lived in.
Yeah. Well, I was obsessed with the idea of evil clowns for a while because I started to figure out what it meant. The evil clown's a classic horror trope, right? And it's weird. Like Stephen King wrote this strange book called It about this clown who is an alien, so a sky god that lived in the sewer. So in the underworld. So it's evil clown in the underworld, and it's an evil clown of cosmic significance who lives. And as soon as I figured out the archetypal understructure, I thought, oh, I get this. But it's partly because, like, there's this old idea in traditional Christianity that Lucifer, that the devil, that Satan can't produce anything original. Everything's a parody.
Right.
Everything's a parody, right? And there is this evil clown element to totalitarian states. It was really captured very well in that Death of Stalin.
And in North Korea today.
Well, and in your book, exactly. Yeah.
It's funny that you say that, because when people ask me about write the book, I said this, I'm like, look, I've got a very small microphone. There's only so much I can do about North Korea. What can I do? And I said, what I can do is people will look at that country and they see the Joker, right? They see this evil clown. And I go, all I want to do is move the clown a little bit, move the camera a little bit, and you see behind that clown, there's a lot of dead bodies.
Right.
And all of a sudden you're like, this isn't funny at all. This is horrifying. And that was my goal with that book.
Right. Yeah, well, the comical element, I think, comes in the preposterousness of the lies, right?
Right.
Because, and this is also partly why the gender thing bothers me so much. I mean, there's many reasons why it bothers me, the brutal surgery being, not least among them. But I believe that there is no more fundamental perceptual axiom than the capacity to distinguish between male and female.
Sure.
I'm thinking about this biologically. Creatures could distinguish between the sexes for hundreds of millions of years before there were nervous systems.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So it's like, this is fundamental. Well, and obviously, because if you can't distinguish between male and female at some level, you don't reproduce.
Well, except for the cuttlefish.
What do they do? Are they hermaphroditic?
No. There's I think at least the giant cuttlefish, maybe other species. There's a male that present as female, and they wait for the alpha bull males to go away, and then they rape or at least impregnate the females.
Right. Well, so they're still know.
Passing.
They just pretend.
Yeah, they're passing though.
Yeah. So the problem with the gender bending foolishness, and I think it's part of this like evil clown pathology, is that that's for sure.
Yeah.
If you can get people to accept the lie that a man can be a woman, all other lies are trivial in comparison, right? The lie is then paramount. There's a weird sub-narrative. Sorry, I'm obsessed with biblical references because I've been immersing myself in it for quite a while. But there's a biblical idea that's a strange one, that when the abomination of desolation is raised to the highest place, put on the altar, it's time to head for the hills. And that's what it is. It's a statement that when the order is perverted 100%, right? When the worst possible thing is elevated to the highest possible position, things have deteriorated to such a point that you better take appropriate steps.
But we got a ways to go.
Well, hopefully.